Community SADC Industrialisation Week. The SADC Industrialisation Week, which runs from July 28 to August 2, is a forerunner to the SADC Summit set for the 17th of next month. Now, Zimbabwe is expected to host about 200 companies from across Southern Africa during the week, the Industrialisation Week, which will run under the theme Promoting Innovation to Unlock Opportunities for Sustainable Economic Growth and Development towards an Industrialized SADC. Now, tonight we are going to be hearing more about the SADC Industrialisation Week. What does it mean for Zimbabwe and the region? Stay with us.
This is Muriro on Monday on Star FM. Muriro on Monday. Brace yourself. It's a hard hat area.
And I'm joined in studio by Senior Officer, Industrialization and Competitiveness in the Directorate of Industrial Development and Trade at the SADC Secretariat, Dr. Johansen Rutaiwa. Good evening, Dr. Rutaiwa, and thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you very much, Linda, and a very good evening to you.
And we're also joined by CEO Africa Roundtable Chief Executive Kipson Gundani. He is an economist and he is part of, the CEO Africa Roundtable, and he will be part of this discussion as we talk more about the SADC Industrialisation Week. Kipson, good evening, and thank you very much for being part
of
Linda.
This
discussion.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And we're also hoping to be joined by our another guest who has been caught up in traffic, Esther Mapungwana from the Zimbabwe Women's Resource Center and Network. And we certainly hope that she will be able to catch up with our discussion. Now, to begin with, Dr. Rutaiwa, could you elaborate on the primary objectives of the SADC Industrialisation Week and how it aligns with the broader vision of industrializing the Southern African region?
Thank you very much, Linda. The SADC Industrialisation Week, which is the 7th edition, it aims at providing the platform of bringing together the captains of industry, all coming from the private sector, the public, the research, and the academia. Another objective is to showcase what the region has been doing in terms of the implementation of the industrial strategy and roadmap. As would agree with me, there are quite a number of issues that we have done for the past 10 years, but it's really not known to the local or to the region. So we use this platform to ensure that all the activity, the engagement, the opportunity that are available under industrialization are being shared during this week. And how it's in line with the Southern Africa industrialization agenda. You know that now we are talking of the AFCFTA, which is a huge market that is trying to bring the continent together. So as a region, we need to be coordinated in a manner that we are able to support our SMEs and our manufacturers to be able to benefit from the available opportunities. And again, how do you do this? Is through having this strategy, and that really requires member states to ensure that their policies and their strategies are very much aligned with the regional initiative, so that it becomes much easier for them to access the continental one.
And can you give us a glimpse of the events lined up for the Industrialisation Week?
Thank you once again. The event will be happening for 6 days, and day one will be on Sunday, where we start with the media briefing. We provide a platform for the media across the region and the locals to come and meet our senior officials who will be speaking on the objective of the Industrialization Week and what is expected. All this is to help the media to be able to report the right information to the locals, because as you know, not everyone really understand why do we have the Industrialization Week, and we always depend on you media people really to send out the clear information to the community. So the day will be dedicated to you media people, really to get and ask what you want to ask and what you want to understand, so that you can communicate the clear message. And the day 2 is dedicated to the investment or marketing Zimbabwe. This is coming for the first time, unlike in the previous edition where we didn't really have the day full for the host country. But this time we are bringing this new innovative for Zimbabwe to take a chance to promote as a country and share what are the potential and the opportunities for one to come and invest. And when we speak of investment, we don't only mean the foreigner investors, but we also mean the domestic investors. We know there are Zimbabweans who are very much willing and who are capable to invest in the country, but probably they're not getting the right information. So Industrialization Week is going to provide a platform for them really to get to understand what are the potential opportunities that are within their country and what are the incentives that are available to the national who wants to invest in the country. And we are happy that the second day will be blessed by His Excellency the Vice President. Also, we'll be having the Secretary General for AFCFTA, His Excellency Wamkele. We'll be having the Deputy Director General from UNIDO, Madam Haidara Fatu. These are some of the key high-level profile people who will be attending day 2. In terms of day 3, we'll be more focusing now on the discussions, sharing the experience. What have you been doing in implementing the industrialization? And industrialization is not implemented alone. It cuts across, and it needs support from other policy sectors like agriculture, infrastructure, energy, trade, to mention just a few, without forgetting the cross-cutting issue to do with health, youth, and women with people disabilities. All these issues will be discussed during the day 3. And day 4, that's when we'll be having our official opening to be officiated by His Excellency Comrade President Mnangagwa, and he'll also be there His Excellency Vice President, His Excellency the SADC Executive Secretary Elias Magosi, and the other high-level dignitary who will be attending, including His Excellency Wamkele. And the day 5, we proceed with our discussion, which will be continuing sharing the achievement, the challenges, and how to address it in terms of the implementation of the strategy. And the last day, which will be on Friday the 2nd, that will be dedicated on the factory visit, where we allow the delegates who have visited Zimbabwe to go around and visit identified companies for them to learn and appreciate how they've been really implementing the strategies. And during the entire week from Sunday, we also have the exhibitions, where we are inviting exhibitors, both locals and international, to come and exhibit. And as we speak, we have got more than 356 exhibitors who have registered to showcase their product. And this is an opportunity for exhibitors to come and meet with their fellow exhibitors from different parts of the world and from different parts of the country. And with this will also, we hope, it can also help them to improve their product. You find, you meet your fellow exhibitors who sell the similar product like the one you have, and you looking at the product that is selling, you find it's more modernized than what you have. So it's a platform again for them also to share experience and how they can really modernize or innovate their products.
All right, thank you very much for giving us that snapshot view of what we can expect through the SADC Industrialization Week. Now, Kipson, what is the significance of this event for Zimbabwean industries and the economy? Any of you, what is the significance of this?
Thank you, Linda. I think it's a very opportune time for Zimbabwe to be hosting this 7th edition of the SADC Industrialization Week. I think you might recall that it is Zimbabwe that did put the industrialization agenda on the SADC platform about 10 years back. And we are glad that the whole mantra is coming back home. to be recooked and re-energized in order to spur the region to pursue the industrialization agenda. How significant is this? I think it's an opportunity to put Zimbabwe on the spotlight once again for economic reasons and not for other reasons. So I think it's an opportunity for Zim to shine and showcase its potential, its industrial potential. I think it is well documented and known that Zimbabwe do possess great industrial potential. However, that has been decimated over the years due to many other reasons, which I think we are all aware of. But I think this is a new dawn, and through the exhibitions, I think we should be able to showcase what Zimbabwe is producing now, and that can actually work as a catalyst or as an inspiration to investment that is sitting on the fence to come here and be productive. That's number one. Number two, I think it's also an opportunity to network and relate with industrial captains from the region. I know there will be a lot of guys that are coming from other SADC countries that are attending the 5-day, the week-long program. And it's an opportunity to network and synergize and perhaps start to mute joint ventures. It's also an opportunity perhaps to then identify and recalibrate ourselves towards attracting the investment that we much need. If you look at the industrial progress of Africa and SADC in general, I think we can agree that it has been very slow, though there are signs of improvement and growth. And what we now need is to catalyze that and speed that industrial development, because it is important to industrialize in the sense that it creates jobs. The multiplier creation of jobs when you industrialize is higher than when you focus on the primary sector, which is agriculture, mining, and everything else. So I think it's an opportunity to also share knowledge, share experiences as a region, and be able to refocus again on the industrial agenda, so that the CFTA that the good doctor talked about can make sense if it is a trade pact based on trading of the manufacturers or the manufactured products which are of greater value.
All right. It is 10 minutes before 7 o'clock, and tonight we are talking about the upcoming SADC Industrialisation Week, which kicks off on Sunday, the 28th of July, and ends on Friday, next week, Friday, the 2nd of August. And what does it mean for a startup, for an SME, for a big corporate? Do come through with your contributions on our studio WhatsApp number 0772 162 and I will open the phone line after the news at 7 o'clock. 071 441 4413. You can be part of this discussion. Now, Kipson, we did hear that for the first time ever, this is the 7th edition, the SADC Industrialisation Week is going to feature an investment conference.
Sure.
Where the host country, in this case, which is Zimbabwe, will have an opportunity to showcase a number of things to the delegates. What, in your view, will Zimbabwe be showcasing at this investment conference? We've had government running with the Zimbabwe is open for business mantra, and a number of policies that have been put in place. What, in your view, are the key areas that Zimbabwe can showcase at the investment conference?
It's actually a plethora and a whole array of investment opportunities that is going to be presented by Zim, both from a private sector perspective and also from a public sector perspective. I think if you look at the catalogue of proposals that sits with the ZIDA, it's very rich and very lucrative. And I think it's an opportunity to showcase that to who would be investors, whom ordinarily are going to be our peers from the region and also international investors that are going to attend this. Then also, if you look at the private sector, if you look around, Linda, the suburbs of Harare, the Milton Parks, the Eastleys, they used to be residential areas, but now they are offices. It means there's a lot of economic activities that is happening there. If you look at our industry, it has been dead for some time now, but you can see the noise of the machinery now pumping again. So I think there is an opportunity to show the world that Zim is awake again, that Zim is awakened up from the slumber, and we have to show this. Some of the notable sectors that I think should be shown should be emanating from the commodity-driven industrialization agenda. We have got an agri sector that is coming up. We've got a mining sector that is coming up. And if you look, for example, the Manize project, that is a world-class example that we need to show the world that massive, huge investments which can do mass employment can be done again in Zimbabwe. So it's one project that I think needs to be shown. Also, when you look at what's happening at the Sunway City, I think it's also an opportunity to be showcased to the world. If you look at the various export processing zones and so forth, the so-called free zones, I think it's also an opportunity to showcase that to the world and be able to present these opportunities to who would be investors in order to narrate the Zimbabwean narrative in a very clear manner that attracts inward investments, and also be able to showcase the profit potential. So one thing that I think needs to be showcased are the success stories of Zimbabwe. You know, capital is very timid. It flows downstream. And half the time, it also takes someone who is making money within a particular jurisdiction to say his story so that at least you can attract and inspire others to invest in that particular jurisdiction. So I hope our industrialists out there will come in full force to engage and be able to narrate the Zimbabwean story and their own story in terms of the industrial agenda as a way of trying to massage capital into the country.
All right, so let's hear the Zimbabwean story from your listener. 0772162651 is the studio WhatsApp number for text messages. And I see the phone line is already buzzing. I will begin taking calls after the news at 7 o'clock, but the number is 0714414413. What, in your view, is the Zimbabwean story that the country will be selling during the SADC Industrialization Week throughout the 5 or 6 day showcase, and more specifically at the investment conference? So let's hear your views on that number. Now, Dr. Taiwa, as far as preparations are concerned, is the SADC Secretariat happy? What is your assessment of the preparations as far as the hosting of the SADC Industrialization Week is concerned?
We have been here 3 times to assess the readiness of Republic of Zimbabwe to host. I'm happy to report that we are more than happy for the efforts and the commitment that has been put in the preparation of all this event, starting with Council Summit and the other side event, which includes of Industrialization Week, the public lecture, and the SADC Badea Investment Forum. If I compare with the previous editions from where this Industrialization Week has happened, we find Zimbabwe to be on top of the ladder. Yeah, Zimbabwe have done quite well. And one thing that Zimbabwe should be proud of is the commitment of the senior government officials. We have been having the access to all the senior government officials from the level of the president himself, the vice president, the minister, and the permanent secretary. You will remember sometimes back in June, our executive secretary Elias Magos was here to meet His Excellency the President, and later he also meet the vice president for the same purpose of ensuring that everything is in order. And the permanent secretary from the Minister of Industry and Commerce has also been an instrumental to ensure that all is in order. He has been having the sleepless night, and I'm sorry to report this. Sometimes you may get the text from him around 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning. Very few people who are committed like this. But also the NCP, the National Contact Point, they have also been very instrumental and very active to ensure that the host of the Council Summit and the other side event are well managed and well prepared. They've been also supporting the secretary all the time. Whenever we need them, they'll also be there to ensure that we get what we want. And lastly, they've been, as a country and the government, they've been really taking our advice. Whenever they want to do anything, they will consult the secretariat that, how do you see this? Is this how we are supposed to do? Which really is something really to praise. Very few can really, we say, this is a sovereignty state. They have decision to decide what they want to do. But for the government of Zimbabwe, they have been so open to take any kind of advice from us to ensure that they don't miss any point on this. So we are happy on that.
All right, thank you very much. And we're just about to go into the news at 7 o'clock. But before that, the significance of the theme, Dr. Ritaiwa, promoting innovation to unlock opportunities for sustainable economic growth and development towards an industrialized SADC. Could you speak into that theme in just under a minute? What is the relevance or significance of this theme?
The word has now changed. Innovation has become the key component for anyone to be successful. You will see the artificial intelligence where now you can be sitting on your computer, everything is done by the computer. You just put whatever you want to do, like the chat GP. It can write an email to you, it can write a letter to you, it can do anything that you want. So as a manufacturer, where we are heading, we shouldn't be really relying more on the traditional. We need to promote our SMEs and the startup to be more innovative. That's the way they're going to really compete in the global value chain. Sitting on the traditional way, thinking that really we are going to manufacture based on the port that we have, we won't really take us far. And we are now in a industrial 4.0 era where everything is now automated. So we need to move very fast, and how do we move is to ensure that we are innovative and creative in whatever we do.
All right, some interesting messages already coming through, and we'll be getting into that after the news at 7 o'clock. Makaterera kunepfenyuro yeStar FM, nguva dzave nguva dzenawo neindaba.
Now pa Zim Papers Radio Broadcasting Division.
Paitwa kurudziro yekubatana nedzimwe nyika mabasa emaindastri kusimudzira upfumi hwenyika. Zita rangu ndinonzi Senzo Mpofundo painawo zvizere. President Mnangagwa akurudzira vemaindastri kuti vashandise mikana ichauya nemusangano weSouthern African Development Community SADC Industrialisation Week iyo kutanga musi wesvondo. Vachitaura kuchivigwa National Hero Retired Brigadier General Michael Chaminuka paNational Heroes Eka muno muHarare nhasi. Mutungamiri wenyika vati imwe mikana inenge iripo zvakare pamusangano we44th SADC Ordinary Summit mwedzi unouya.
Our industry and commerce and institutions of higher education, as well as our entrepreneurs, innovators, micro, small and medium enterprises are encouraged to leverage on this event to further leapfrog our country's ongoing industrialization and modernization drive. Meanwhile, I call upon all the stakeholders, including the private sector, to partner my administration and other local authorities to enhance the environmental ambience, the cleanliness and the beauty of our cities in preparation for the summit and indeed into the future.
Zvichida izvi National Hero Retired Brigadier General Dr. Michael Chaminuka varangarirwa semunhu akange akazvipira munyaya dzeutano nevamwe vake munguva yehondo resununguko. Zimbabwe Radio dzataura nevanoti ZANU-PF Council of Elders Chairperson Dr. Sydney Sekeramai, Retired Brigadier General Zvelinzi Mahlazo na Zimbabwe National Army Spokesperson Colonel Alpheus Makotore. Vakashanda naye vakati Brigadier General Dr. Chaminuka munhu akange akazvipira mubasa rake nenyika zvakare. Nyanzvi mune zveupfumi dzinoti Dr. Nyasha Kaseke naTitus Mukowe vakurudzira kurukota rezvemari Professor Mutulunuve kuti vatore mukana wekusimbaradza mari yemuno pavanoita mid-term policy statement yavo musi wechina vhiki rino. Vati zvichabatsira zvikuru mukudzikama kwemisika yezvemari munyika. Vachitaura neZimbabwe Radio News vaviri ava vati zvimwe zvichawedzerwa zvinenge zvichifanirwa kusimbaradza mari yemaziki yakauya muna April gore rino. zvida izvo totakazike vati kunofanirwa kuiswa mari yakawanda mumabasa ekurima zvekare kuti nyika iwane zvekudya zvakakwana. Pari zvino nyika ine kudzikama nekuda kwemaziki akauya kwabviswa mabhondi. Idzanga dziri nhau zita rangu ndonzi Senzo Mpofu ikozvinondopa idzi ndaba.
Indaba kuZim Papers Radio Broadcasting Division.
Sokwenziwe inkuthazo ukuthi kusetshenzwe lamanye amazwe ukuthuthukiswa umnotho. Igama lami uSenzo Mpofu, ngipha indaba ngokugcweleyo. Mongameli Mnangagwa wasekhuthaza ama-industry ukuthi asebenzise amathuba azabuya lo mhlangano we-Southern African Development Community SADC Industrialisation Week evula ngesonto ukuze kukhule ama-industry akuleli. Bekhuluma ngqotshwa retired Brigadier General Michael Chamnuka e-National Heroes ekhaya Harare namhla. Njalo umongameli Mnangagwa wakhuthaze njalo ukuthi abantu bangayekeli ukuthatha amathuba azabuya njalo ngomhlangano omkhulu we-44th SADC Ordinary Summit ngenyanga ezayo.
Our industry and commerce and institutions of higher education, as well as our entrepreneurs, innovators, micro, small and medium enterprises are encouraged to leverage on this event to further leapfrog our country's ongoing industrialization and modernization drive. Meanwhile, I call upon all the stakeholders, including the private sector, to partner my administration and other local authorities to enhance the environmental ambience, the cleanliness and the beauty of our cities in preparation for the summit and indeed into the future.
Kunjalo nje umuyi National Hero Retired Brigadier General Dr. Michael Chamnuka ukhulunywe njengomuntu owayezimisela ukuphathisa kwezempilakahle ngesikhathi sempi yenkululeko. Ingcitshiko zomnotho zizikhuthaze uProfessor Mthuli Ncube ukuthi nxa esesenza okwe mid-term policy statement ngolwesine ananzelele kakhulu indaba zokuthi imali yakuleli yalilokhu izinzile njengalokho ukhona kwamanje. Bakhuthaze ukuthi ubekwe imali eningi njalo kwezokulima. Bekuzindaba igama lami uSenzo Mpofu libe lokulalela okuhle.
It's happened. It's done and dusted. It's official. The Star FM Facebook page has reached a staggering 1 million followers, making us the #1 most followed Facebook page of any radio station in Zimbabwe. This is your opportunity to advertise to a huge online audience today. You can live stream and boost your marketing campaign and interact with potential clients in the comments section. To advertise today on the Star FM Facebook page, you can call Hillary on 0776 120 243 or Ashley on 078 115 7061 now. Log on to our Facebook page, Star FM, and join the 1 million. Star FM, leading the pack and sounding good all the time.
This is Muriro on Monday on Star FM. Muriro on Monday. Brace yourself. It's a hard hat area.
It is 6 minutes after 7 o'clock and you are tuned to Star FM, sounding good all the time. Many thanks to Senzo Mpofu for giving us now Indaba. The news team is back again at 7 o'clock, at 8 o'clock with more news, and that will be the last bulletin of the day. And we continue with our discussion where we are talking all things the 7th SADC Industrialisation Week, which commences on the 28th of this month, running until the 2nd of August. And for this discussion, I have in studio Senior Officer Industrialization and Competitiveness in the Directorate of Industrial Development and Trade at the SADC Secretariat, Dr. Johansen Rutaiwa, as well as a CEO Africa Roundtable Chief Executive Kipson Gundani. What does this mean for Zimbabwe and the region? This is the question. Some of the questions that we're asking tonight do come through on 0772 162 651. Some interesting messages already on our studio WhatsApp platform, and the phone line is 0714414413. Now, maybe to just begin with, I will throw this question to Kipson that has come through from our listener whose number ends with 623. Zimbabwe has been progressing well, but the recent stats by CZI show a lot needs to be done on, we need to focus on the 3 challenges highlighted by the SADC Industrialization Strategy and Roadmap, which are infrastructure and, in brackets, prolonged load shedding in particular. Number 2, skills. We need skills in the STEM field and access to finance. Your comment to this, Kipson?
Thank you, Linda. The listener raises a very important point, which speaks to the pillars of industrialization, which are basically the processes, the people, and technology. And is rightfully articulated in the SADC Industrialization Strategy and Roadmap, we need the right skilling of our people. So our tertiary institutions, our vocational colleges needs to get to work and provide the right skills which are commensurate and timely for our needs presently. Unfortunately, if you look at for Zim in particular, it has suffered a very huge brain drain, where you then skill the people for other economies. So I think skilling alone is not a sufficient condition to arrest that. You need to skill and employ. And you can only employ if the industry is growing. And I am a strong advocate of what I call state capitalism, where the state perhaps at some point needs to take a deliberate approach to invest in private enterprises and be able to spark growth in that aspect. Then the listener also raises the issue of energy. SADC, as a reason, is suffering from a huge energy deficit. And I think, this is a clarion call, maybe to the Secretariat or to the Southern African Power Pool, to perhaps initiate projects that can power the region and be able to deal with. I know there are a number of projects that are in the pipeline, but I think we need energy now. So I think there is need to do these things expeditiously for us to be able to do that. The other thing is to do with the transportation, particularly when you do to bulk commodities, especially if you look at the dilapidation and the death of the rail network, particularly in Zimbabwe. I was so happy when I saw the president in Mozambique together with the president Nyusi and the right president of Botswana muting this huge railway project. It would significantly cut the production costs by reducing transportation costs for the region. So yes, the listener is very right. We need to close the infrastructure gap. We need to make sure that there is power in the region. We need the right skill. But more importantly, we also need the macroeconomic convergence as a region for us to be able to give energy to this industrial agenda. If you look at the region in particular, say for a few countries that I may not mention, access to credit is an issue. And access to credit is a panacea for industrialization. So we also need the right financial architecture that works for our region through access to rightly priced industrial loans for us to be able to grow as a region.
All right, thank you very much. And before Dr. Retaiwa, I ask you to then weigh in on the issues that Kipson has made reference to. Earlier on, we did mention that as far as the industrialization agenda is concerned, it has come full circle as it was birthed in Zimbabwe during the 2014 SADC Summit. And 10 years down the line, Zimbabwe again is hosting SADC Summit, and with the issue of industrialization at the core of deliberations. What would you say are the highlights or the key successes or achievements of the industrialization agenda and drive over the past 10 years as we come back full circle on this?
Oh, thank you very much. You are very right. Yeah, Industrialization Week was born here, and now the baby is back home. And it has come at the right time when we have received the directive from the summit that we need to review our industrialization strategy and roadmap to see where the challenges and where the opportunities and where have you been doing quite well, where we need to capitalize. Nevertheless, yes, always the challenges are there, but we have done the best to ensure that the past 10 years we have really implemented. And would you agree with me, the first 5 years, It was more to set the foundation for implementation. And this went by supporting the member state in terms of the alignment and the harmonization of their policies and the strategies to ensure that they are able really to implement the strategy. And all the member states got the support. We also worked on the protocol in industry, which gives the legal mandate for the Secretariat. Because as you know, the Secretariat doesn't have legal mandate to take any action in case member states are not implementing the strategy. It's through the protocol in industry that the Secretariat we have the legal mandate. The other aspect is in terms of the launch of the private sector association. When it was approved, we were directed. This strategy is going to be implemented by the private sector. As a public sector, we are more to create enabling environment for it to be implemented. How do you implement the strategy by the private sector if you don't have really the strong private sector association in the region? So through this, the launch of the SADC Business Council was done, and the SADC Business Council does exist, which represent all the private sector in the region, and we are engaging with the private sector through the Business Council. Also, the other aspect that we are proud to mention that it has been the successful of the implementation is in terms of the development of the Lobito corridor, which now is in pipeline, and the agreement has been signed between the three member states, Zambia, Angola, and DRC. The other aspect which is very crucial when it comes to industrialization is the value chain aspect. We are saying in order for the region to be able to develop or to industrialize, we need to promote the regional value chains, which will feed the global value chains. As a region, we have undertaken a number of studies to ensure that we take stock. What do we have? What are the challenges for us to really to enter into a global value chains? We have identified 4 products within the region, but the challenge always has been member states wants to be included in every value chain. But as a region, because we are looking on a product or a sector that really bring more than one member state. But when it comes to really to have the regional impact or regional identification, member state, we want all of them to be mentioned that, okay, they've got the potential on this area. With that mentality, really moving to the value chain, it becomes a challenge. So we are still working on the value chains that as a region we are going to really focus on. And I'm happy also to discuss that we had a support program called SIPS, SADC Industrial Productive Sector Program, which Zimbabwe has also benefited from that through the Innovation Hub at the University of Harare. They got the funds. Also, the leather sector here, they were also benefited from that project, where we are giving out the grants. Also, the pharmaceutical sector in Zimbabwe, we are one of the areas that also benefited from the grants. Apart from that, we have quite a number of the issues that really has been done, and when it comes to implementation of the strategy, one being also the development of the infrastructure, where we are focusing more developing the northern side infrastructure network. But to a normal or a local citizen who would want to hear about these policies, because they are more of the policies. They want to see the tangible things. What have we done in terms of implementing? On this, I'm happy that, okay, in terms of the trade facilitation, we have launched the so-called e-certificate rules of origin, where one is able now to lodge in the certificate in the system, unlike previous where we need to carry the document to pass through the border. So that's really critical for business community. Also, we have been able to address the issue to do with non-tariff barriers. We have got the website where one is able to report the challenge or the NTB that is facing, and you'll be able to track on the system how far it has been attended to. So these are some of the really 2 or 3 issues that the business community or local person would want to hear, other than the police perspective, which is more of the public.
All right, it is 18 minutes after 7 o'clock, and we are talking about the SADC Industrialization Week, which begins on the 28th of this month. And I have in studio Senior Officer, Industrialization and Competitiveness in the Directorate of Industrial Development and Trade at the SADC Secretariat, Dr. Johansen Rotaiwa, as well as a CEO Africa Roundtable Chief Executive Kipson Gundani. And we are joined by an economist from the Zimbabwe Women's Resource Center and Network, Esther Mapungwana. And thank you very much for coming through, Esther, and it's good to see you as we have this discussion. Now our phone line 0714-414-413, 0772162651. Now, Dr. Rutaiwa, an interesting contribution that has come through on WhatsApp. The listener's number ends with 691. They say we can waffle all we want, but you can't industrialize without power and access to foreign currency to import raw materials. And I think this is what Kipson made reference to, the issue of power, energy supply in the SADC region. Your response to this contribution and the earlier contribution from Kipson, how has SADC done, seeing that energy issues are ravaging most countries in the SADC region?
Yeah, the energy issue is not only the issue to do with the Southern African countries, and my brother Kipson has put it very well, and I wouldn't want to add more. The sources of energy in the region are still they are still very minimal, or if not in the infant stage. I understand, like my own country where I'm coming from, they are now working on the Mwalimu Nyerere power dam, which is going to really to feed, once it comes into operation, it will feed the entire Southern Africa. So the question to ask, how many countries do they have that kind of initiative? Very few in the region, and we are depending more from each other. But as a region, what we have done as Secretariat, we have come up with the energy strategy. And the good thing, I would really encourage our listener to attend one of the sessions on energy, where we don't be discussing the renewable energy, but also non-renewable energy. We get an ample time for really to elaborate exactly what the region is doing to address the issue of power in the region. As you know, the really power is critical to manufacturing, as you can't industrialize without power. But there are quite a number of initiatives as a region that we have put in forward, which one need really to appreciate. We understand it can't solve the problem once, but as a region, but if you look at 10 years back, you see that we have made progress towards addressing that issue.
All right, and Esther, thank you for coming through. In your view, as we talk about the Industrialization Week, how might it impact Zimbabwe's fiscal policy and public finances, and what, in your view, what measures might be taken to ensure a sustainable fiscal stance?
Okay, thank you very much, Linda. I think looking at the main themes around the industrialization week, which are focusing on special economic zones, as well as moving more to mineral value addition and energy just transition. Looking at our fiscal space, I think we'd now want to see it would be very important to actually realize where we are as an economy, and what initiatives or frameworks can be put in line with promoting the special economic zones. I know right now our legislation around special economic zones is mainly the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency, and I think that is what the focus is according to the highlights on the SADC Industrialization Week. So what I would be anticipating is that after the discussions and the dialogues and the policy initiatives or issues that will be coming around the discussions of the special economic zones, as well as the energy issues, I'm hearing that there was discussions around that and around the clean energy, the just energy transition. It will be now important to now look at our fiscal policy and initiatives that are now align to the initiatives that are going to come out from the dialogues and from the strategies that are going to come out. So these policy initiatives should actually be supporting some of the initiatives that will be coming out of these dialogues. For example, if they're going to be networking and even openness of trade, it's important now to see and to look at how our fiscal policy is going to come up with initiatives that actually promote those lines. If we're going to be talking more about the clean energy or just energy transition, what are the policies around our fiscal stance that are supporting that line? So I think the stance will now depend on what we're going to agree on in terms of where we are as an economy and what is implementable from our fiscal space.
And in light of what Esther has just mentioned, Dr. Ritaiwa, we do know that the SADC Industrialization Week is a forerunner to the SADC Heads of State and Government Summit, which then comes on the 17th of August. How does this feed into the agenda of that summit, if at all it does?
The Industrialization Week, it exists based on the directive of the summit and the council. The deliberation that will be discussed during the event, we are going to make the declaration on the last day, which will be on Friday 2nd, and that declaration usually is presented to council and then summit. Based on the issue that needs the policy guidance, they'll be taken straight to council and summit. And those issues that doesn't need the policy guidance, it's just a technical issues, will be implemented immediately. And usually you find from the previous editions, this kind of deliberation, some of them they have to be implemented by the private sector, some of them is public sector, some of them is research in the academia institution. And what we usually do for those kind of the decision that doesn't need the policy guidance from the decision makers, we usually update each other coming to the next edition of the Industrialization Week. We have to report how have you been really able to implement the decision of the previous editions. We don't want to make the industrialization just a talk show where you bring the captains of industry and talk and then there's no action. We usually make sure that the feedback is given to the sector, and even before the Industrialization Week, through the ministerial meetings and also through other platforms where we interact and engage the private sector.
Right, it is 25 minutes after 7 o'clock, and we continue with our discussion right here on Star FM. Do come through with your views, contributions, and comments regards our issue around the SADC Industrialization Week, which Zimbabwe is hosting next week as a forerunner to the SADC Summit for Heads of State and Government, which is coming next month. What does it mean for you as a Zimbabwean? What should Zimbabwe showcase during the Industrialization Week, and what deliberations and resolutions are you expecting from the captains of industry and the players that will be represented there as far as advancing the lives and livelihoods of the citizenry of the SADC member states? So do come through on 0772162651. That's our studio WhatsApp number, and the phone number is 0714414413. Now, Kipson, there's a message that is coming through. The SADC region is exporting raw materials. How will you industrialize while wasting minerals? Now, of course, as they have said, the region is endowed with abundant natural resources. Do we have sufficient legal and policy framework to push value addition and beneficiation? This has been a talk for the longest time. Where are we getting it wrong? Not just as Zimbabwe, but as the SADC region, but obviously more specifically where Zimbabwe is concerned.
Yes, Linda, critical question. We don't have the right frameworks to do that. I've always argued that Africa in general is wrongly integrated in the global economy. We are integrated as a provider of raw materials of unbeneficiated products and an importer of high-end beneficiated and manufactured products. And that's a cycle that we need to reverse. The starting point is to come up with a deliberate policy framework as a region that affords to do that. but more importantly, provide the incentive for the region to industrialize. And I've always argued that the best incentive that you can give to any private sector player is a stable macroeconomic environment. It's an environment that allows you access to cheap capital, an environment that allows you to import technology, an environment that allows you to employ the right skills at the right price, and then be able to industrialize. We need that. And some of these decisions need to be driven from the very top level of our society, and provide also to mind shift our industrialists and our policymakers to believe that it can be done. If you look at countries like China, for instance, 40, 50 years ago were comrades in poverty, but they made a deliberate choice to learn from the world and implement WOM, and look at what they are right now. You cannot ignore them. And the same can be done for Africa. I strongly believe that is now time for Africa. The opportunities are there. We've got a demographic dividend in terms of the youthful population. We have the resources that we're exporting raw. We just need to tie the bits and pieces and be able to industrialize.
Thank you very much. And Esther, a contribution also is coming on the issue of taxation. How can Zimbabwe and SADC member states address the issues around taxation? I think I attended the Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce annual congress that took place in Victoria Falls some 3 weeks back. And one of the key issues was around issues of taxation, the cost of doing business for startups and what have you. But the major issue around taxation, which some or most players believed has contributed to a huge informal sector in Zimbabwe, which the National Competitiveness Commission said also then contributes to how the country is ranked as far as its competitiveness is concerned. What measures do you think need to be put in place or heightened, strengthened as far as taxation issues are concerned, Esther?
Okay. As far as taxation is concerned, I think we need an equilibrium approach, because taxation is needed. We need taxes for our country to thrive, because we need that revenue if it's actually directed to the right spaces. But if we get our revenue and it's directed to capital, to infrastructure development, we need the taxes. However, we also should be cognizant of the fact of where we are as an economy. Like you are rightly saying, we are highly informalized. In as much as, yes, we are talking about the SADC Industrialisation Week, and we're looking really at the high level of business. We're looking at, the manufacturing sector, big investors. We also have the lower end, where it's the informal sector, which you are talking about. So now we really need to look at the balance in terms of how we're going to actually model our tax architecture in the country. We now look at the informal sector. What are they able to afford, and what are the initiatives that we can put that can attract the informal sector to contribute to taxation based on the ability to pay principal, based on how they are able to pay, not to just try to force people to pay taxes, because then, especially in the informal sector, they would evade. So I would rather recommend that we look at what is possible within our informal sector and what can attract the informal population to contribute to taxation, like what my colleague was talking about, incentivizing, yes, the industrialization, but also incentivizing at the informal sector when we're looking at taxation related to informalization. But however, we also look at taxation from the industrial side. What are they also able to pay, but what is also what can you also do to incentivize taxation from that side, or to have a balance in terms of liberalization, like attracting investment, but at the same time not choking our revenue collection processes. So there is need for that balance in terms of the policies that we are going to be implementing, and it's important to actually look at where we are as a nation. It's not an approach that we take where we just look at a country and then take what they've done and try to apply to our context, because our context is different, our currencies are different, where we are is different. So it's important to really understand that when we are learning from other countries, we look at what is possible for Zimbabwe and where are we as Zimbabwe, and how then can we strike a balance without hurting the population, but also promoting economic growth.
All right. Thank you very much, Esther. I really would like to hear from your listeners on 0714-414-413. As far as our discussion is concerned, 0714-414-413. Now, Doc, the issue of climate change, the region, Zimbabwe and the rest of the region is facing this El Nino, which has ravaged most countries, and it has been declared a state of disaster, not just in Zimbabwe, but other countries that include Zambia. To what extent does the SADC industrialization strategy speak or respond to issues of climate change? Is it enough? Do we have enough strategies to mitigate against a climate change, given the risk it poses to the region's industrialization efforts, with its potential impacts on agriculture, water availability, and energy security? Or maybe there's need to fine-tune. I was about to take a call and then the line stopped flashing. So come through 0714-414-413. Does the SADC industrialization strategy, Dr. Ritaiwa, respond effectively to the issue of climate change? But before you answer that, let me take a call. Star FM, hello. Star FM, good evening. All right, I'm going to drop this call and we will try again. You can go ahead and respond to that issue.
The SADC industrialization strategy and roadmap is being implemented into 4 pillars. The first pillar is on industrialization, which we are saying we have got the resources and we are endowed, so we need to capitalize on this. And why should the intertrade be very low? The second pillar is on competitiveness, where we're speaking the issue of energy, the issue of infrastructure. Then the third pillar is on regional integration. How are we integrating and supporting each other as sister and brothers? We are talking of the CFTA, the tripartite. And the last pillar is the cross-cutting issues, where we talk of people with disability, women, and the youth. So you find that it's, in terms of compact, the strategy is well crafted. Now, where does climate change fall under this strategy? It falls under pillar number 1, where the issue of climate change, the issue of agriculture, the issue of disaster risk, they're all under that pillar. And as a region, we do have the climate change strategy. And now we have come up with a circular economy strategy. But the strategy alone is not enough. What it is required is implementation. And the Secretariat, according to the treaty, their role, or our role, is to coordinate the implementation. The actual implementation is falling under the mandate of the member state. And when the member state does not implement the strategy, as a secretary, there's nothing that really it can be done more than apart from encouraging them to implement the strategy. And this is where now the point of coming up with the protocols of the relevant sector is coming in, which now gives the mandate to the secretary to say, okay, if you're a state party to this protocol, then you have to do it. And for the protocol to come into force, 11 member states have to ratify out of 16 member states. So signing it becomes much easier. But when it comes to ratification, the always pace becomes very slow among the member states. So we adapt the diplomatic way of continue encouraging the member state, coming up with the good papers, how they are going to benefit from ratifying of these protocols. And when you ratify one protocol, like let's say the protocol on climate change, it doesn't mean that one protocol is going to address all the issues of climate change. It needs to be supported by other protocols. Protocol on science and technology, protocol on women, protocol on industry. With that component, or that togetherness, that's when you really get the impact of the strategy and the protocol. So to answer the question short, the strategy is there and is being implemented, but the actual implementation is being done by the member state. The secretariat is more of coordination.
All right, let's take some calls. Star FM, good evening. All right, 0714414413, 07414413, and the studio WhatsApp number is 0772 162651. And I'm joined in studio by Kipson Gundani, CEO Africa Round Table, CEO, as well as Esther Mapungwana, an economist, and we're also joined by Dr. Johansen Rutaiwa from the SADC Secretariat as we talk about the SADC the 7th SADC Industrialization Week to be held next week in Harare. What does it mean for Zimbabwe? What does it mean for the region? And what issues do you expect to be deliberated there? All right. We seem to be having a bad day with our phone lines. 0714 414413. Star FM, good evening. 0714414413, and our WhatsApp number is 0772162651, and a contribution that is coming through on WhatsApp: revamp the education system, let's teach productivity and value addition. Let's try this time. Good evening. All right, and our engineer is working to address that 0714414413 or 0772162651 as we talk all things to do with the SADC Industrialization Week. Star FM, good evening. All right, so revamp the education system. Let's teach productivity and value addition. We have development practitioners with ideas. That's a contribution that is coming through on WhatsApp. And another message here says SADC and Zim in particular need a serious skills development, a serious skills development approach. That STEM zeal that died down was the right way to go, forming skills basis and upping our technology absorptive capabilities. Otherwise, we remain importers of high value goods and exporters of mineral ores and crops. These are the messages that are coming through on our WhatsApp platform. But I know earlier on Kipson spoke to that. In your view, Esther, what are the potential trade and investment opportunities that could arise from Zimbabwe's hosting of the Industrialization Week, and how might these impact the country's economic growth? But before you answer that, let's try this call. Star FM, hello? All right, we're going to drop that line. We keep trying on 0714414413. Yes, Esther, you can respond to that.
I think the Industrialization Week is a great opportunity for industries business partners to showcase what they have in terms of what they're producing and what they're able to export, and to have linkages and networks amongst themselves, and also to know what other business players are doing within the region. And like I indicated, we're looking at the issues of the African Free Trade Agreement and how partners and industry can take advantage of these existing agreements, as well as where SADC countries are also considering the special economic zones for trade. So I think this is the time where industry, business partners, traders can understand what opportunities they can tap in terms of what they can export, and how they can also promote the industrialization. I like the contribution that was talking about the improvement of skill set and our educational level. Yes, that will be a policy issue, but it's also an issue that can be taken up by traders in terms of what other skills or technology or digital technology that they can tap in to improve their trade level. So I think the Industrialization Week is also a knowledge sharing week. It's an exposure week. It's also a time where ideas can be shared, and understanding of what policies, what agreements that business and traders can tap into, and which will promote economic growth, which will promote the creation of employment, and which will encourage and make people understand the opportunities that they have in terms of trade, depending on their level of business.
All right, let's try again on 0772 162-651. And the phone lines keep buzzing. I know so many of you want to come through with your contributions. 0772-162-651. 0772-162-651 is the number we're going to use for our contributions. And Kipson, your assessment of Zimbabwe's readiness as far as embracing AI and the African Free Continental Trade Area. What is your assessment of our how the country has embraced moving with the theme and what Dr. Rutaiwa mentioned earlier on?
Thank you, Linda. I'll start on the CFTA. How Zim has been ready. I know that we signed. I know that the Ministry of International Trade and Foreign Affairs is seized with that matter. But the history of this country tells me that we are never ready for those kind of treaties. If you talk to the industry, they will be crying for certain derogations when it comes to the implementation matrix. And I have always argued that there is no right time. Perhaps some of these things we just need to get to them and implement, correct our mistakes as we go. Perhaps it's also a way of working up the sleeping prowess of our industrialists to be able to produce efficiently. Then when it comes to artificial intelligence issues, innovation and so forth, I think we have got no choice, especially as the young population of the world. This is a thing that is there to stay, and I think we have to embrace technology for us to produce efficiently. Otherwise, we are not going to be competitive in the global arena. And the competitiveness can equal death of the industry. If you are not competitive, the industry, other industries from other countries will consume you, especially as the world becomes a global village. And if you look at the number and the population that is unemployed in Zimbabwe, for instance, if you are in an industry that is not productive, that is not competitive, and there is a replica industry that is legal or illegal, so even with the protection, you can still somehow find yourself out of business. So I think the solution is to become competitive. Let's embrace the technologies. Let's import the technologies that we need. And also let's get into the huge game changer, which we are calling the Continental Free Trade Area, and be a participant in it by producing goods that we can trade on the continent.
All right, let's try one more time. Star FM, good evening. Taswera mapindo taswera maswerawo ndanga ndichikumbirawo sezvo tine vaenzi vedu vari panapa vabva kuTanzania uko ngakwanise kutaurawo nechirungu kuti vange vachikunzwai vakwanise kunzwisawo zvamuchataura.
Sorry zingada achida kutaura katogona kutaura hedu nechirungu but aikumbirawo nhamba dzasekuru Kanengo.
Mamuchikumbira nhamba dzani?
Dzasekuru Kanengo.
Alright, ndofunga zvamuri kuda kutaura zvine chekuita nechirongwa chino.
Handisi kutochiziva kune chirongwa cheiko.
Aiwa, saka munenge mafona pachirongwa chisiri icho, asi tinotenda chazvo kufona kwamaita. Regai timbonzwa vamwe vateereri pa 0772-162-651 0772-162-651 tichitaura hurukura as we try and wrap up. We would really like to hear your contributions around the SADC Industrialization Week. What do you think are the issues or should be the issues up for deliberations at that week-long event that is set scheduled for next week Sunday? As we continue with our discussion. Star FM, hello? Star FM, good evening.
Hello.
Hello, yes, you're through to Star FM. Go ahead with your contribution.
Okay, good evening. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Right, so today, it's really a bad day as far as our phone lines are concerned. But as we end our show, one of our listeners saying, okay, let's try one more time. Star FM, hello?
Hello?
Yes, are you through to Star FM?
Yeah, I would like to recommend your program. It's very informing
it's a good work done. I just want to commend the great effort that you are doing. I think if you keep in unity, all is well. In all SADC members. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that contribution. Let's see if we can take one or two more. 0772162651. Our listener here saying, I'm trying to call. I can't get through. I've been through Mandikata. No, we did not cut off. We are having connectivity challenges there, but you can try again on 0772162651. We always want to hear your views on the show. Star Familo?
Hello.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. You're through to the show.
Yeah, sure. My contribution would be like Africa. For now, it is still being built. And hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I think Africa is gonna be the modest continent than Asia or Europe. And
yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, sure. So I wanna say to the SADC, they have to push. They have to implement more to change this African continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that contribution. Thank you very much. Yes, we were having network challenges there. So maybe one more, two more, I don't know. 0772 162651. We'll take our last two callers. Star Famila? Okay. All right. So definitely the phone lines are not working today. As we end the show, Kipson, your parting remarks, expectations, and all those issues that have been raised, that have been spoken about. I really don't know if I should try one more time. But anyway, Stephen, hello? Stephen, good evening. All right, yes. Your parting remarks as we end the show, Kipson.
So we owe the future to no one else but ourselves. We have got the power and the means as Africans and the people of SADC to define what we want to be. And the time to do so is now. Let's get to work. The policymakers ought to produce the right policy environment, and the private sector ought to get on their shoes and gumboots and be able to produce. The citizenry ought to have the right mindset and also get to work. Life is all work, and we cannot have the Africa that we dream of if we don't work towards it. Otherwise, dreaming alone is not enough. And we are saying this is a silver plate that has been placed before us. Let's do the needful as a people from Africa and be able to industrialize the continent, create the jobs that we much need, and grow our economies.
And how do we ensure that the SADC Industrialization Week is not just another talk shop, Kipson?
Well, it's to do with the architecture of the program and also the participants. More so, it will be a talk show if there is no implementation roadmap at the end of it. Because obviously we are going to be talking the whole week. Nothing's going to be implemented there. The implementation comes after the conference. So it is what we are going to do after the conference that really matters. So to my fellow captains of industry out there who are going to be participating in this industrial week, you should have an objective. Why are you going to attend there? Whom do you want to meet? What are you seeking? And go for it and be able to pursue after the conference. It's just a platform presented. What you reap out of it, it depends on your own fortitude to engage as a person. And I think that is critical at this juncture, to have the industrialists with the right mindset that go there to tap as much knowledge as they can and be able to implement it thereafter.
All right. And Esther, your parting remarks. Of course, I'm going to come back to the both of you, your expectations as we await Thursday's mid-term statement from the finance minister. But as far as the Industrialization Week is concerned, how do we ensure sustainability and practicability, Esther, as we move forward and in light of the upcoming SADC Industrialization Week?
I think ensuring sustainability and the processes being practical, it goes to like what Gibson was saying, that the participants, what are you taking into account and what are you going to implement? That is what is going to ensure practicability. And my parting words is the discussions that are going to happen, the deliberations, the issues, the ideas, the innovations, everything that is going to come out from the Industrialization Week. I just want to encourage participation of captains of industries, yes, and women and the youth, so that it's all inclusive, because it has been sort of I think an idea that when you're talking about industrialization, it's about all these big men and people who are in big spaces, but citizens should also participate in these processes because it belongs to them as well. So it should be inclusive. The jobs that are going to come up, they're created for the youth and everyone else, and the industrialization that's going to come out is going to benefit the economy. So it's not only about the participation of the captains of industry, but it's a citizen issue, it's a regional issue, and it's an economical issue. So I just want to encourage citizens to be part of this process, to partake, to understand, and to contribute to these dialogues, because the economy belongs to everyone.
And Dr. Rutaiwa, your parting remarks as far as what we can expect from the SADC Industrialization Week in terms of building sustainable and promoting tangible collaboration and partnerships among SADC member states.
The SADC we want it to be built by all SADC member states, and this is an ample opportunity for the Zimbabwean community to come and provide their candid advice what the region should do to ensure that we achieve the SADC we want, but not also to provide the advice, but also to showcase what do they have for the region, or of which other member state can learn, or which can attract other member states to come and invest in Zimbabwe. So this is what I can say, or I can encourage for them to attend the Industrialization Week.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rutaiwa. And Gibson and Esther, your expectations on Thursday as the Finance Minister presents. We must talk about it as we end. What are your expectations, Gibson?
Thank you, Linda. 3 things for me. The first one, I expect Minister Mtuli to take away the IMTT tax. It's a menace. It's a huge transaction cost. It's just burdening the industry. And I think the reasons that it was introduced for, according to him, are far gone. Please, Minister Mtuli, if you are listening, the IMTT tax is hitting us. It's a huge transaction cost. Secondly, there have been statements from the highest office of late about the de-dollarization agenda, and saying by 2028. What it has done, it has also plundered the whole economy into some sense of skepticism. And if we are not careful, we can also see credit lines from banks to the industry drying up because of the fear of currency change and currency switch and fear of losses. I think you should provide leadership and guidance on what really is the policy stance concerning the de-dollarization agenda. Number 3, we see a lot of infrastructure projects happening. We would want to know the source of funding and see if we are not over-borrowing as a country. We need the infrastructure, yes, but also it needs to be funded right. We probably expect the minister to come clear and explain to the nation how are we affording these big infrastructure projects, which are a good thing, but the funding can be detrimental.
All right, and Esther, your expectations on Thursday?
Okay, my expectations really will be looking at the budget review and strategic paper for 2025 in terms of the gender responsiveness of the budget. Looking at how people have benefited, how women, how men, how the youth have benefited from what has been allocated from the 2024 budget to date, what resources have been accessed by the citizens, and what challenges have been faced, and if they've been faced, how will they be addressed? Because for me, at the end of the day, it's the citizens, the women, the youth, the people living with disabilities that need to benefit from the resources. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So those are the expectations from the economists in here. Gibson talking about the issue of the IMF MMT, the question on the dollarization issue, and the issue around the financing of infrastructure projects. I know this is an issue that we speak week in, week out on this show, as we have different government officials coming to say, how do we balance the need to have satisfy this huge infrastructure drive, which also speaks to development in line with the National Development Strategy, NDS1, and the need to balance inflationary issues around the financing models, and as Gibson has said, the source of funding, and yesterday talking about the gender responsiveness around our national budget. So thank you very much. Allow me to take this opportunity to thank you, Dr. Johansen Rutaiwa, Senior Officer, Industrialization and Competitiveness in the Directorate of Industrial Development and Trade at the SADC Secretariat. He was here with the CEO Africa Roundtable Chief Executive Gibson Gundani, as well as an economist with the Zimbabwe Women's Resource Center and Network, Esther Mapungwana, as we were talking about the SADC Industrialization Week to be held from the 28th of this month to the 2nd of August. And the event will run under the theme Promoting Innovation to Unlock Opportunities for Sustainable Economic Growth and Development towards an Industrialized SADC. And the Zim Papers Radio News team will keep you updated as that event and others unfold towards to the run-up to the SADC Summit. I am Linda Muriro. Until next time, it is goodbye for now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you for inviting us.
All right.